friends. It's Sharon with Living the Good Life. Hey, it's been a while since I've created a video. We do have two new podcasts here on YouTube. One was Walk Like a Hebrew. It was an 8-day podcast during the feast of Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits. And this newest one is called Hosting God's Presence. It's a 50-day podcast taking place between what the Bible calls in Leviticus 23, Passover to Pentecost, called Counting the Omer. And so, did you know that God wants his people to be carriers of his presence? That there's God's abiding presence. God is omnipresent. I mean, he's present everywhere, but there's also something in the Bible called the manifest presence of God. We, as God's people, can have his manifest presence with us every day. We can host his presence so that our world around us can be encouraged and they can be touched by the presence of God. The presence of God changes everything. Well, that's part of the reason why I haven't posted a new video, because I've been really busy with doing the podcast. And the other thing that I want to talk to you about today, the focus of this video today, is distractions. The title is Distractions Keeping You from Purpose? Are distractions keeping you from your divine purpose? Or are distractions helping you get to your divine purpose? You know, sometimes we think we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we're going down a path, and we've got a plan, and we're working the plan, and then all of a sudden something happens, a distraction, and we're no longer doing that thing, and we think, did I miss God, or what happened? Sometimes distractions get us on the right path. Other times, distractions can definitely get us off the right path. Well, I've encountered a few distractions in my life since the beginning of January, and I wanted to talk to you about those, because at first, as I began to pray into it, I felt like the distractions had taken me off of a specific focus that I felt God wanted me to be doing the beginning of the year. I think I've shared with you in one of our last videos that my husband and I, his name is Stephen, we had a radical recalibration a few years ago. We moved from moved from California to Indiana, 13 bins, Costco bins in the back of a Ford F-250. We packed up everything. We left our children. We left our grandkids. We left his parents to come on this adventure that God had put us on. We had no idea how radical of a shift and change it was going to be. I had been for 40 years a full-time nonprofit minister. I'm ordained in ministry. We have a ministry called Solid Rock Ministries. We have an apostolic network called Cluster Kingdom Alliance. Everything that I did for 40 years was all around ministry. I've written several books, 4 books. I've created lots of material and courses, but those were never really for sale. Well, I would give them away, or I would sell my books when I went to events, and because I would speak a lot. I still speak places, and I go when I minister. Well, in August of last year, God began to really speak to me about creating a new business called Recalibrate. And it's a coaching, mentoring program to help people recalibrate their lives for God's fullness, to fully create a prophetic blueprint so they can walk in the fullness of what God's called them to do. That's what my husband, Stephen, and I are doing right now. We're walking in fullness. We're living the good life because we let God recalibrate us. Well, also in August of last year, at the end of August, we got connected to a man called Pedro Adeo and his entrepreneur program called 100X. We joined his Kingdom Wealth Challenge. It was a 3-day challenge, I think. We were so impacted by it. We became 100X members. Well, then in October of last year, we went on a ended up being like it's 2.5 month journey from Indiana back to California. We had speaking engagements across the United States. We went and visited places we had never visited before. And one of the reasons we ended up staying with Stephen's mom and helping her out and doing some really cool things there in California. Well, we attended the 100X conference in October, the end of October last year. Well, when we did that, of course, they gave another offer, and the offer was to become a part of this new program they were doing to become certified with 100X. Well, at first I'm like, well, I don't really want to be certified. God, in his great mercy, has given me a 7-spoke framework out of Ezekiel, the will of Ezekiel, for Recalibrate. And he gave me 7 specific spokes, as I call them, to help people recalibrate their lives. Well, 100X is built upon 6-stake framework. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to use his framework. I want to use the framework that God gave me. But as we learned more about what the program was all about, not only did we get certified to use his program, but there's other things within there about wealth building that we really felt like God wanted us to be a part of. So we end up investing a large chunk of money that's very unlike my husband and I to become a part of this program. Well, I was really excited because you could get certified in 90 days. So that would November, December, January, we could become certified in this new program and be off and running with it. And that was my goal. That's what I felt like God said for me to do. So October, we were still in California. We were still in California in November, so I got a little bit behind. So in mid-November, we came home so we could be here with the kids on the holidays. I really jumped in and started doing my work. And I was on track to be certified the end of January. Well, the beginning of January, as I was going through this program, one of the programs was about learning marketing and selling products. And one of the assignments was we were to host a challenge. Now, I had hosted a challenge in August of last year to kick off Recalibrate with my sister Becky. And it was a very simple challenge. It was 5 days. It was amazing. People got touched and set free. People became a part of our Recalibrate membership. They still are today. It was wonderful. So I thought, well, I can do that. That's not a hard thing. I did that already. But what I didn't know was God was going to expand the challenge to be something much more than just me doing some training. The 5-day challenge at the end of January was on the life of Joseph. 5 keys from Joseph's life that would enable you and I to fulfill our divine destiny. And so I thought, that's awesome. I had to learn a whole new program. I'd never done a funnel. I had to do funnels. I had to learn marketing. I never did anything like that. Didn't even know what a funnel was. Well, it took a lot more time than I thought it was going to take. As I prayed into the challenge, I felt like God said, I want you to have prophetic teams and healing teams to help people get a new fresh word for the year and to get healed and delivered so they could go into 2023 and step into their destiny unencumbered from the past. So the mercies of God, I was able to gather a team, ministers from Tennessee to California. We had a prophetic team and we had healing teams. But it took a lot of time. We had weekly meetings. We had prayer times. It took a lot of my time. It seemingly got distracted from the certification program to do this challenge. And see, distractions, one of the meanings of distractions, I'm going to look it up here, is to draw around. It's to draw away. It's to distract also to be driven about mentally, to be over occupied, too busy about a thing. Well, all of us can relate to that, right? We get distracted. We're going down a path. I mean, think about it. For us ladies, and there's some men that also do house cleaning. When you're cleaning your house, what happens often? You're doing your laundry, you're cleaning your house, you're doing your bathroom, and all of a sudden you think, oh, I need to go do this. And then you go off and you start another project. You're doing that project and you think, oh, I need to do that over there. And then you go over there and you start another project. Before you know it, you've got 3 to 4 different projects happening, and you're not got one of them completed yet because you got distracted. That distraction is a bad distraction, but there are some good distractions. And I believe the challenge and what took place after that was I did a 1-day Issachar intensive. Those were God distractions. That's a part of my destiny. That's a part of my calling. But up until this very moment, I thought those things had gotten me off track of fulfilling the 90-day certification. Yes, I did not complete the certification in 90 days, but I have forever to complete that. That was my own personal deadline. So I set some goals and some things I wanted to do in January and March, February and March. And I went back over and I looked over my goals. So some of my goals I finished, and other ones I didn't get to finish because of these other wonderful things that happened. You see, Martha and Mary in Luke 10, that's where we find the word of the New Testament, being distracted. Martha says that Martha was about, and she was busy, she was encumbered about with things, trying to feed the Savior, Christ the Lord. He had come to visit her house. And Martha, her sister, was sitting at his feet, wanting to hear everything that he had to say. But Martha thought it was best to go and make food for the guest. And Jesus said to her, but one thing is needful, and that Mary has chosen. She's chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her. The good part being she chose to listen to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And that's what we're talking about here with this distractions. That's the key. Have you gotten distracted? Do you feel like you've gotten off goal? That you had some specific things that you wanted to do? That you had a purpose, you had an intentionality about this beginning of this year, and you thought, if I get these certain things done by the end of April, then I'm going to be good. I'm going to be on my way to fulfilling my destiny. But you got off track somehow. And maybe you getting off track was the enemy, because he likes to do that. But maybe it was God saying, yeah, that's good, and you're going to do that, but these other things needed to happen first, as in my case. It's good to have goals. It's good to make a plan. If we make a plan, it says God will establish our plan. But when we get off course, whether it's a good distraction or a bad distraction, we have to realize that we have to call upon Yahweh, the Lord, and ask him to help us get refocused. Whether it's that go back to the beginning of what he told you to do in January and accomplish that, or if he's rearranging things and that was what was going to be accomplished and January is actually going to be accomplished in May or June, maybe he just wants to reorder some things. But to live the good life is to be like Martha. We sit at the feet of Jesus and we say, Master, what are you saying today? What do you want me to do today? How do I need to get focused afresh and anew for what you're asking of me? How can my prophetic fulfillment happen? My prophetic blueprint the things that you've written about me, the things that you've spoken about me. How can I get those accomplished in my life? The words that you've given me for this year. Maybe God's given you specific words and phrases and scriptures. One of mine is living the good life. I'm living the good life and I'm enjoying life. But I need to stay focused on what Jesus is saying to do right here and right now, as do you. So I want to encourage you, if you've gotten off focus, if you've gotten distracted and you feel like you're missing it, call out to Yahweh. Ask Him to empower you and enable you to get back on focus, get rid of any distractions that are keeping you from walking down the path and fulfilling the 1, 2, 3s. Man makes a plan, God establishes it. We got to have the 1, 2, 3s. We got to have the plan. But we got to say, Lord, you establish it. Maybe you want to move 1 needs to be 3 and 3 needs to be 1 of my plan so that I can fulfill all that you're saying for me in this season. So, friends, remember that God created you with a plan and a purpose in mind, that He has a prophetic fulfillment, a prophetic blueprint already written about you, and you just got to tap into it and find out what it is that God's saying for this time. Know that the enemy will try his best to distract you from that plan, but that you can overcome every one of his attempts. You can and you will overcome distractions. God will make sure of it as you lean into Him in prayer, as you sit at His feet and you give Him full control of what your plan is and say, God, this was my goal. This was my plan. I'm giving it to you. Take out what isn't of you for this season. Put in what is and help me accomplish all of my destiny in this season of my life. Friends, I bless you. I thank you for joining Living the Good Life. Don't forget to listen to our podcast, Hosting God's Presence. You'll be blessed. Until next time.